You are 11 years old, sitting in a clinic in Rosario, and your feet do not touch the floor. The paper on the examination table crackles every time you shift your weight. Your father is quiet. Your mother is trying not to look afraid. The doctor has already taken your blood, already asked his questions, already done the thing adults do, when they know the answer before they say it out loud. Then it comes. Your body is not growing the way it should. Growth hormone deficiency. Treatment is possible. Treatment is expensive. And just like that, a child hears a sentence that tries to turn his future into a smaller room. That is how this story begins. Not in a stadium, not with a trophy, not with a commentator shouting your name into a camera. It begins in a chair, too big for your body, in a city far from the center of the football world, with a verdict that sounds almost practical when you first hear it. That is the strange thing about life-changing moments. They rarely announce themselves like thunder. Most of the time, they sound like paperwork, like a doctor clearing his throat, like a number your family cannot easily pay, around $1,000 a month, give or take. For some families, that is a cost. For yours, it is a wall. And before the wall, there was the ball. Before anyone called you a prodigy, before anyone in Europe said your name with curiosity, there was a small house in Rosario full of movement, noise, siblings, work, and the rhythm of ordinary survival. You were born there on June 24, 1987, the third of 4 children. Your father, Jorge, worked long hours in a steel factory. Your mother, Celia, cleaned houses to help keep the family moving forward. This is important because talent gets romanticized later. People love to tell the story as if greatness arrived under a spotlight. But in the beginning, greatness usually shows up dressed like routine. A father coming home tired. A mother stretching money. A boy finding a ball and treating it like the center of the universe. You do not remember deciding to love football. That is like remembering when breathing became important. It is simply there. The ball at your feet feels less like an object than an extension of thought. Other children run after it. You move with it. The difference is small to watch at first unless you know what you are looking at. Most people do not. Children are always being overpraised by the adults who love them. Every neighborhood has a boy people call special. Most of them are not. That is why these stories are so easy to dismiss at the start. A gifted child is common. A child who keeps the gift through pain, distance, bureaucracy, and fear is not. At Newell's Old Boys, where you join as a little kid, the pattern becomes harder to ignore. You are smaller than almost everyone else. That part is obvious. What is less obvious, until the game starts, is that size stops mattering when the ball reaches your left foot. The field changes scale around you. Bigger boys lean in and miss. Faster boys arrive a fraction late. Space appears where there should be none. Coaches notice. Children notice. Parents on touchlines notice. Still, even then, nobody knows what this will become. That is another lie people tell in retrospect, that greatness was inevitable. It was not inevitable. It was fragile. It could have gone the other way in 100 different places. Then the body stops cooperating. At first, tell themselves the comforting stories. Families always tell. He will catch up. He is just small. His mother is not tall. His father is not tall. Give it time. Time is the first medicine people reach for when they are scared. But time does not solve this one. By 11, the gap is no longer something you can explain away. Your friends are stretching into themselves. Their sleeves look shorter every few months. Their legs seem to arrive before the rest of them. And you are still you. Still brilliant with the ball. Still tiny. Still waiting for your body to get the message. That is when the clinic visit becomes necessary. That is when talent meets economics. That is when the dream begins to cost money. The injections are where the story becomes private. People talk about struggle in public language because public language is easier to admire. They say adversity, sacrifice, hardship. What they usually mean is something quieter and harder to picture. A boy alone in a room at night with a needle in his hand. A ritual repeated so often it becomes part of the architecture of childhood. You are not old enough to vote, drive, or sign a contract, but you are old enough to understand that if you want the chance to become yourself, pain has been added to the price. There is no applause in that room, no crowd, no coach giving a speech, just a child learning discipline in its most unglamorous form. Not inspiration, Repetition. That is the first framework that changes your life. Not belief, not confidence. Repetition, because confidence is unstable at 11. It comes and goes. It can be shaken by one bad day, one doctor, one conversation overheard through a half-open door. Repetition is stronger. Repetition does not ask how you feel. It asks whether you will do the thing again. Push the needle in again. Train again. Touch the ball again. Go back tomorrow again. People later call that mentality. They call it character. But at the start, it looks much smaller than that. It looks like a child doing what is in front of him, because there is no useful alternative. Your family tries to keep the road open. That is what families do. When they love somebody with a dream bigger than the household budget, they improvise, they negotiate, they hope that institutions will behave like people. Sometimes they do, often they do not. Newell's does not carry the burden. River Plate looks, thinks, hesitates. Clubs admire talent very differently when talent comes with a monthly invoice. This is the part nobody likes to talk about when celebrating the romance of football. Clubs say they want brilliance. What they often want is brilliance without inconvenience. They want the finished story, not the early expense. So doors begin to close, not because you cannot play, but because you are costly before you are profitable. And this is where a lot of futures die. Not because the child was not gifted enough. Not because the family did not care enough. Not because the dream was fake. Futures die here because delay is expensive and uncertainty frightens institutions. The world loves risk after it has paid off. Before that, it called risk irresponsibility. You are still in Rosario, still training, still being whispered about in certain circles, still unknown to the wider world, and the entire direction of your life is hanging on whether one club, somewhere, will decide that a very small boy is worth the trouble. Then the geography of your life changes. Videos travel. Names travel. Word reaches Barcelona. There is a trial arranged in September of 2000. You are 13. Think about that age honestly. 13 is not heroic. 13 is awkward, emotional, unfinished. 13 still needs a family. And yet now there is an ocean inside the story. Now there are flights, hotel rooms, waiting, adults talking in corners. Long pauses that children are expected to survive quietly. You step onto a training pitch beside the mini estadi, and there are older boys, academy coaches, men with reputations, men whose decisions carry weight you cannot yet measure. You are the smallest one there by a distance. This is not metaphor. It is the first thing anyone sees. Then you touch the ball. And suddenly, the size becomes the second thing they see. That is the pivot point. Not because one session guarantees anything. It does not. But because in those minutes, someone important understands the problem correctly. The problem is no longer, can this boy survive professional football? The problem becomes, can we really afford to let this boy belong to someone else? Carl's Rexach sees enough to know what matters. Other people inside the club are slower, more cautious, more bureaucratic. This is how institutions work. Genius appears. Committees hesitate. A life waits in the gap between vision and paperwork. You and your family feel that gap in real time. Weeks pass. That is the part that matters. Not the glorious version told later, but the waiting, the uncertainty. Barcelona has seen you. Barcelona likes you. Barcelona has not finished deciding. Your father grows anxious. Of course he does, as anxiety is what responsibility feels like when you are protecting a child. You are in a hotel room in a foreign country, and every extra day without clarity makes the dream feel less solid, more embarrassing, more temporary. You can be brilliant on a pitch for 10 minutes and still be one signature away from going home. This is the emotional economy of almost making it. It is not dramatic enough for movies, but it breaks people all the same. Then comes one of the strangest scenes in football history. No mahogany desk, no camera crew, no formal boardroom. Just a tennis club in Barcelona on December 14, 2000. Adults trying to stop an opportunity from slipping through their fingers. Rexach asks for something to write on. What is available is a napkin. That is what history sometimes looks like at the moment it happens. Improvised, slightly absurd, too small for the consequences it is about to carry. On that napkin, under his responsibility, he agrees to sign Lionel Messi, provided the terms already discussed are kept. Witnesses sign. Your father gets proof. The future, which had been floating, suddenly has weight. And this is the second framework that changes your life. Not certainty. Commitment. The napkin is not magic because it is famous. It is famous because someone committed before the rest of the machine was ready to move. People think destiny feels grand. Often it feels like one person deciding not to stall any longer. A child's future turns because one adult says, in effect, enough hesitation. We are doing this. There are many boys with talent. There are far fewer moments when talent and decisive belief meet in the same room. Barcelona takes on the treatment. Your family moves. The old life does not disappear, but it is no longer the whole map. And now a different kind of difficulty begins. Because rescue is never as simple as rescue looks from the outside. Yes, the door is open. Yes, the club is paying. Yes, the dream is alive. But a dream kept alive is not the same thing as a dream made easy. There is paperwork, registration trouble, homesickness, the strange loneliness of being young in a place that is supposed to save you. Adults often forget this part when talking about opportunity. Opportunity can still feel like exile while you are inside it. You are far from Rosario, far from the familiar streets, the accents, the rhythms, the ordinary feeling of belonging without effort. You are a child asked to turn adaptation into discipline. So you do what you already know how to do. You repeat, you train, you keep injecting, you keep learning how to inhabit a body that is still catching up. You grow, literally and otherwise, inside a system that demands performance while pretending patience is enough. Most people only meet the finished version of excellence. They do not see how much of excellence is administrative, forms, rules, waiting periods, permission slips, delayed debuts, quiet endurance. The mythology of greatness loves fireworks. Real greatness, early on, is usually built out of compliance with tedious things that would crush less stubborn people. Years pass. Not many, but enough. That is another thing the world misunderstands about overnight success. The overnight part usually arrives 5 years late, and then it happens. May 1, 2005. Barcelona against Albacete. You are 17 years and 10 months old. You come on late. This is no longer a youth rumor, no longer a family legend, no longer a hotel room maybe. This is official. The shirt is real. The stadium is real. The moment is real. The first attempt ends in disappointment, a goal ruled out for offside. Even here, the story delays itself one last time. Then it comes again. Ronaldinho lifts the pass. You do not rush. You see the goalkeeper off his line. Left foot, chip, goal. And if you freeze the image there, right there, before the numbers become ridiculous, before the trophies stack up, before the arguments about greatness turn endless and exhausting, you can finally understand what this title means. Before the world knew your name, you had already lived a whole life. A clinic in Rosario, a steelworker father, a mother cleaning houses, a ball that kept finding your feet, a body that refused to grow on time, needles at night, clubs backing away, an ocean crossed on possibility, a hotel full of waiting, a napkin sitting in for destiny, bureaucracy, training, silence. Then one chipped finish from a Ronaldinho assist, and suddenly the world starts joining a story that had been happening all along without it. That is what people miss when they meet greatness late. They think they are witnessing an arrival. Usually they are witnessing a reveal. And maybe that is why your life matters to people who will never touch a football, never play in a stadium, never hear a crowd rise when they step onto grass. Because the early years of your story are not really about fame. They are about the long, invisible argument between what the world sees and what is actually there. The world saw a small boy. The gift was larger than the body. The world saw a medical problem. The future was larger than the diagnosis. The world saw expense. The truth was value. The world saw delay. The truth was preparation. Before the world knew your name, you had to live as if the name would matter anyway. That is the hard part. Not succeeding after everyone believes. Succeeding while the room is still unconvinced. Continuing while the paperwork is unfinished. Repeating while the evidence is private. Carrying a future nobody can yet verify. That is the emotional weight of becoming. And that is why this story stays with people. Because somewhere, in one form or another, almost everyone knows what it feels like to be underestimated before being understood. So if we are honest, the most important goal in this story may not be the first official one against Albacete. It may be every quieter victory that made that goal possible. Every night you did not quit. Every month your family kept the dream alive. Every adult who chose action over hesitation. Every time the body was behind schedule, and the gift kept moving forward anyway. The public saw the finish. The private life built it. And that is the image I want to leave you with. Not the trophy lift, not the confetti, not even the goal. A boy in Rosario, still small, still waiting, still unknown, walking toward a ball as if the world has not yet learned the truth about him. But he has. That is the real POV of your life as Lionel Messi, before the world knew your name. Not certainty, not glory, just the quiet, stubborn refusal to let a closed door tell you who you are.